Okay, welcome, and like we said, if you have any questions, just unmute yourself and jump right in. I'll do what I can. So this is the Postal History of Lititz, Pennsylvania. Lititz, early L-I-T-I-T-Z, you see the spelling there. Early spelling was L-I-T-I-Z. It was founded as a Moravian settlement in northern Lancaster County in 1756. Count von Zinzendorf named the community in honor of the 300th anniversary of the Czech king Jan Podobrosky, having taken the Hussites and Moravian brethren under his royal protection at Litus, L-I-D-I-C-E, that's in Czechoslovakia. Lititz is an Americanization of the pronunciation of the Czech word Litus. Litus was a closed community initially. That meant you had to have something that was of use to the community, like a trade. Otherwise, you couldn't settle there. I lived in Litus from 1976 to 1982. I'm not sure if I had any skill of value for the community. Their postal history, and there's beautiful downtown Litus. Their postal history is a bit unique in the field. Most town markings, towns, postal history towns, markings begin with the manuscript, and then they evolve to the hand stamps. The earliest Litus marking is a hand stamp circular date stamp. In fact, there were two different types of hand stamps before the first manuscript was seen. So the post office was established in 1806, and I just talked about the postal markings being different from normal. This is, get rid of myself here. This is the earliest piece that anybody knows of from Litus, August 6, 1822. This is a type 1 circular date stamp. And when I refer to the types, these are the types that are listed in the book that Pennsylvania Postal History put out. It's called Postal Markings on Stampless Mail from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. It was compiled by our ex-member Jim Boyles, myself, and from New York, Tom Mazza. So the types are from that listing. Excuse me. So what we have here is the first CDS, and it's in red. There's 6 of these known. The printed date, and I guess, I don't know if my my pointer is going to work. I guess not. Oh, there it is. The printed date here is unique, and this is the earliest recorded date. And Christian Hall was a postmaster. He started work on the 1st of February 1806, which is when the post office opened, and he served until Valentine's Day in 1830. This is the same, excuse me, the same circular date stamp, July 27th, 1824, 2 years later. Here we have the manuscript dating July 27th in red, and that is unique. And here's the third of these, exactly 1 year later, July 27th. Here we have the red CDS, but the manuscript dating is in black. So this, and Charlie, this is the other cover that I said I had to your Reverend Seidel.
Oh, I didn't even realize you had the second one there. Thanks for showing me that, because I put a couple of slides together when you're done just to show everybody the other one that I've got. So you have two.
I sent you an email and said I had the second one. This cover's in actually is in not very good shape. And the letter is very, very hard to see on the inside. It's not as easy to read as the one that you've got. But again, it's all in German, but I love the script. I absolutely love that script.
Yeah, that is beautiful at a different era and time when cursive was really, I mean, that's phenomenal script.
And sure, but you'll notice that it's going to a minister and in Bethlehem, and much of the mail between Lititz and any place else was religious in nature. And it went to ministers and people in Bethlehem and Nazareth.
Well, I'll give you a little
Pennsylvania.
teaser, Dick, if I could, because I don't know if you know the background of this Reverend, because you just mentioned the history, and I'll talk about it after you're done. You said Moravia, right? Moravia.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was a minister at the Moravian Seminary for young ladies in Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll talk briefly about that later. So here we have the same circular date stamp, and again the black manuscript, which is really the more common. And this is the latest recorded date, January 30th, 1827. Here we have this one. I'm sorry, it's very tough to see. It's very light on the cover, but it's a smaller circular date stamp with very large letters, Litiz. This is type 2. It's got a black manuscript, and it's the only recorded copy of this piece. Now we get into the manuscript, and this is a type 1 manuscript, style 1. There's 4 of these known. It's in use from October 10th, 1832 to June 6, 1845. This is the earliest recorded use. At that time, Frederick Zitzman was a postmaster. He served from February 15th, 1830 to April 17th, 1849. And this has got a manuscript 6 in the upper right-hand corner. Here's the same style. This is the latest recorded use. And for me, this is the start of it all. Back in the mid 1980s sometime, not sure exactly what year, I was sitting at the table late on Saturday afternoon, early evening at LebPEX up in Lebanon. And that show was a Friday, Saturday. And as most of you involved in stamp shows know, the last couple hours of the show are just dead. And you just have to gut it out. Well, I was sitting there, and one of the dealers from Harrisburg, Terry something, or I can't remember Terry's last name, came and put that in front of me. He says, "You need this." It was a really cheap piece, and he sold it to me. And that was the start of my Lititz postal history collection. And here I am almost 40 years later. This is style number 2. This is June 4th, 1845. There's 10 of these known. This particular piece was canceled 2 weeks before the rate changed to 5 cents. This was a double weight at 12 cents, went to Washington County, Pennsylvania. Here's another of the same style. This is October 22nd, 1846. This is, let me see. Yeah, this, you'll see, it went to a Bernhard Schwintz in Bethlehem. And we're going to see 4 of these in a row. There's November 5, 46. November 12, 46, a week later. And then September 9th, 1848. These were all to the same person. Interestingly enough, this one has him as Nazareth, and the previous ones were all Bethlehem. I have that in another instance too, and I was going to look at the map and see how close they are together, but I didn't do that. Suspect that has something to do with it. Here is another of that same style. This is the latest recorded date, February 3rd, 1849. And you'll notice that this is a Reverend John Jacobson. I'll have his name on another cover here coming up shortly. You notice I talked about 2 different styles of the L in Lititz. Go back here and we'll show you. You see that style with the big loopy L, loopy top of the L. And then there's that one, looks like kind of a script S. So there's clearly 2 different people working in the Lititz post office. But who's who? Well, one of my covers back earlier, not sure which one it is, had a letter inside, or excuse me, this is the letter on the inside of the folded letter. And look at the L in Lititz up on the top of the letter. And then look at the signature down at the bottom. I'm not sure you can read it, but it's Frederick A. Zitzman, the same guy that's the postmaster. So there's a letter that he wrote as secretary of the local Masons, the Masonic order. And so we know that that style of Lititz is by Zitzman. What we don't know is who wrote that one. Was there a Mrs. Zitzman? It's not impossible, but I haven't seen anything that would lead me to where that other one came from, but at least half of the mystery is solved. And this is pure serendipity, you know, to open it up. And here's a letter from Zitzman. It's just amazing. This is the next style. This is a type 3 circular date stamp in blue with a printed manuscript date. The month anyhow, and the day is in manuscript. This is one of only 2 known, and this is in the term of Jacob Grider, the postmaster, from April 18th, 1849 to June 10th, 1853. As I say, this is one of 2 known. And this was an interesting cancel. I've never seen any place else. It's a double ring and fairly large diameter. It just says Litus, and then there's a PA. So it's a printed month and a manuscript date. There are 5 of these known. This is the earliest date. I have 3 of them. Here's another one. And the last one. And that cancel was only in use for 5 months, at least based on the pieces that I have, which is kind of interesting. And there's my pride and joy. There's a blue type 5 circular date stamp. Now the day and the month are both printed. This CDS is known in 3 different colors: blue, black, and red. The blue is known only in 1850-51. The black most generally from 55 to 59, and the red in 1852. We know by the census that Lititz received 200 5-cent 1847s. They didn't receive any of the 10-cent. There are only 2 of these things known. The other one's out in California. I bought this at the same auction. They were both for sale in the same auction. I was bidding on them both. I was successful on one. Turns out the guy that won the other one has more money than God, and I was never going to win that one. I only hope that someday, if he wants to get rid of it, he'll sell it to me. And I asked him, quite frankly, I said, why did you buy that? Because I saw it on display in New York at the Collectors Club, and I said, why do you need that piece? He says, I just like the circular date stamp. His has the CDS on the stamp, which is obviously better than this one. So he does just a nice example of a canceled 1847. So he has no love for it. I do. I can use it. I deserve it, right? Here's it's hard to see, but it's the same circular date stamp, but that's red. This is the only known example. So this is kind of a shabby cover. But what are you going to do? When you have the only one, you do it. And until the next one comes along. And the indicia on the right is in a large piece from the back side of this thing. This letter came from Linden Hall, the Young Ladies Seminary, which, as most of you know, still exists today. And here's the same circular date stamp in black, but on a 3-cent Nesbitt. Now we have in the term of postmaster Daniel Kreider. He took office in June 11th, 1853, and I'm not sure when he served, how long he served. Oh, I wanted to go back here. There's the Reverend John Jacobson that I mentioned earlier, right there. Same guy here. He's in Nazareth. There he's in Bethlehem. Same guy, a couple of years apart. Here we have I think I'm going to go through about 5 pieces in a row here that are international. These are not easy to find. And I got most of them from a dealer in England. Mostly this stuff goes on the other side of the pond and it doesn't come back. So anyhow, this is a piece that went to, in 1853, went to Württemberg, Germany. I've had the help of Dick Winter to determine the rating on these things, and I'll read what I know about this thing. It's rated at 30 cents, which you can see in the upper right-hand corner. That's 30 cents per half ounce prepaid. And so it's got a manuscript 30 and a hand stamp paid. That's 5 cents of that is the interior US rate. 18 cents is the sea rate to Britain. 2 cents for transit through Belgium. And then 5 cents is the interior Prussian rate. So what that did, that went to England and across the channel to Belgium, and then through Belgium and into Germany or Prussia at that time. These covers end up getting kind of messy because there's so many markings put on them, and it gets even worse. How about that one? I won't go through all the stuff on that one, but this thing you can see in the, let's see, where is it? I got to get the right, there it is. So in the upper left-hand corner, it says by Prussian closed mail. The references tell me that was carried on the first of 2 voyages of the Nashville for the New York and Havre line. In the middle of the top is we've got a manuscript 30 cents. That's the same rating as the previous cover. 23 cents, which is the circular date stamp to the left of Lititz. It says 23 cents. That's the debit to Prussia. Of course, we have the Litus date stamp, January 13th, up in the upper left. Right in the smack dab in the middle of the cover, we've got a manuscript 45 in blue. That's 45 Kreutzer, which was the rate for the Prussian closed mail. And then just to the upper part of that 45 is a manuscript 47. That's 45 Kreutzer plus 2 Kreutzer for the local delivery. And then let's see, and then it's hand stamped on the back in Aachen on 3/2. That's February 2nd. Excuse me, February 3rd. So it took from January 13th to February 3rd, which I guess is not bad. It's about 3 weeks to make that journey. This is another one. They all went to basically the same area. This one here we have. What do we got here? It's a Prussian closed mail. This was carried on the Cunard steamer Europa. Right below to the lower left of the Litus is a hand stamp 46. That was applied at Boston. That's 2 times the 23 cents debit to Prussia. On the side there, we have a hand stamp 5, which was grossly underrated, and it's crossed out in the manuscript 60 put in its place. That's 2 times 30, which is a deficiency in the Prussian closed mail. In the lower bottom of the thing, it says there's a manuscript 133. Excuse me, actually it's supposed to be 130. It's red and blue. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the red marking in the middle of the thing, which is 130. In the blue, you can see the 1. I don't want to confuse you here. There's the 1. Here's the 3, and here's the 0. It's 101 franc 30. That's actually 1 gulden, 30 Kreutzer. That's the rate for the Russian closed mail. Then the manuscript, at the bottom. Sorry, the manuscript 1F33 at the bottom is 1 gulden, 33 Kreutzer. That's 1 30 plus 3 kreuzer for local delivery. And this one hand stamped on the back in Aachen on the 27th of September. So we're looking at what, 19 days. Again, not bad, I don't think. Next to the last one, again, it says by Prussian Crow's mail. This garbled mess here in the upper part of the thing was a 30 hand stamped. There was a 5 underneath it. You can see that 5. Oops. You can see the 5. And they just used a 30 and stamped the hell out of it to obliterate it. Down here in the middle, we've got a 45, which is 45 kreuzer. That's the Prussian closed mail rate. And then there's 47 down here at the very bottom of the cover. That's 45 plus 2 for local delivery. And then here's the actual rate. There's the hand stamp 30. That's the same hand stamp that obliterated that one. And there you have it. That one's back stamped the May 26th. So again, we're looking at 18 days for the trip. Not bad, I don't think, really. This is the last of the internationals. Lost my page, sorry. So this one again, this is 30 cents international rate, which is right over here. And again, that's 5 cents of that is the internal US rate. 18 cents is the C rate to Britain, 2 cents to get it through Belgium, and 5 cents to get it to where it was going in Prussia. All of the same circular date stamp style. And this one is kind of interesting. This is the kind of dangerous stuff that gets you in another collecting area. I got a phone call several years ago from a friend in New York, and he said, there's a Lititz piece in one of Siegel's auctions that you need to get. I was going to be in New York, so I went to the viewing, and here's this piece. Unfortunately, it was in a large lot, but there's a nice Lititz cancel, and here's a Baltimore carrier stamp. This is the 1LB8 horse and rider stamp. This is known in, this is known in black and red, and I have. So anyhow, long story short, some stamp dealer in February 6, 1904, wrote on here, Baltimore stamp guaranteed genuine, Chesapeake Stamp Company, Baltimore, Maryland. Well, the bozo wrote it in ink. And I have no conservator that I've talked to will take a chance on getting rid of that ink. So I said, okay, I'll just live with it. What's in question is whether that stamp started life, or whether that cover started life with that stamp on it. There's really no way of knowing, except it is quite possible. This thing went from Litus to Baltimore. It's entirely possible that the sender in Lititz could have had the Baltimore carrier stamp and put it on there so that when it got to Baltimore, it would be delivered to Mr. looks like Shipe, to his home, rather than him having to go to the post office to claim the letter. But we don't know that. But I've seen others go in the other direction. So it is a possibility. And here we have, let me see here. Again, we're back to this is a type 5 CDS going from Lititz to Kinzer's. And then note the partial, the partial imprint in the selvage here of the Topin Carpenter Company banknote company in the selvage. That's kind of a neat piece. No great rarity. Charlie probably drooling over it, but I can't help that. And here we get in a kind of an interesting piece. Again, that the Type 5 circular date stamp with a hand stamp free on it, and it's also a manuscript free up in the upper right-hand corner. And it's addressed to Pleasant Hunter, the postmaster in Weisburg, Baltimore County, Maryland. Makes one wonder why. I have 3 of these. But remember the name, Pleasant Hunter. This is the letter that was inside of that envelope. And basically, you can see in the date line, it's from Linden Hall, and it's addressed to Pleasant Hunter, Esquire. I don't know if he was Esquire or not. Dear sir, but it's from somebody at Linden Hall, basically saying that the money they sent him is being applied to the account of their daughter. Aha! Now it becomes a little clearer. So this thing went to the father of a student at Linden Hall, and the father was a postmaster at Weisburg, Maryland. But that's pushing the free franking kind of to the limit, kind of illegal. And here's a letter that I just happened to find, more serendipity. Here's a letter going to Lititz from Weisburg, Maryland, to a Miss Eliza Hunter at Linden Hall. Ta-da! Mystery solved. The girl's dad was the postmaster of Weisburg. You know, it's interesting enough, this thing was actually sent to Lancaster. There's a hand-stamped missent over here alongside of the stamp. So it's just kind of interesting. And there's a letter from her mom inside of this thing. And here we have a new date stamp. I don't know what the earliest recorded date might be. My earliest of this type is in 1869. My latest of the previous type is 1864. So someplace in that 5 years, there was a changeover. And here we have a cover from Lititz to Germany, as a matter of fact, and with the 5-cent rate, straight to Germany. This is now UPU. This is from Lititz Academy, and I'm going to read you what I know, because we'll go to the next one here too. This one is from Linden Hall Seminary. This is 1878. This one's what, 76? And you notice both of them, the cancellations are Litiz, L-I-T-I-Z, but the corner card address is L-I-T-I-T-Z. And both of these are prior to the name change at the post office in 1881. Here's the same true of the Linden Hall piece, L-I-T-I-Z, and it's L-I-T-I-T-Z up in the return address. Education was and is very important to the Moravians, especially the education of women. The Gemeinhaus School for Boys and Girls was founded in 1746, preceding the actual founding of Litus by 10 years. In 1766, the school, which was in the church, was divided into the Sisters' House and the Brethren's House for girls and boys, respectively. The girls' school was named Linden Hall Seminary, which is still in operation today, and it's the second oldest school for girls in the United States. The Moravian College for Women in Bethlehem is the oldest. It was founded in 1742. The school's name was changed to Linden Hall in 1883. The Lititz Academy cover, there was a corresponding school for boys, but it no longer exists. In 1815, John Beck was asked to take over the running of the boys' school, and the school was known as the John Beck Academy. Beck operated the school until he retired in 1865. The school continued as the Lititz Academy under the direction of Misters Reichert, and Hepp, as you can see on the cover here, and they're in the return address. There's my pointer. Reichert and Hepp. The Lititz Academy was in operation until 1881. Today, the Lititz Elementary School, which is right behind the post office, is called the John Beck Elementary School. So here we have another fairly faint CDS in May 27th, 1880. This is in violet. I have another one that's just a month later, and the next is in 1882. The next cover, anyhow, is in 1882. It's a different CDS in black, and the post office name changed to Litus on February 1st, actually, it should be 1881. That's an error. So I don't know much about these things. Here we have another cancel yet. It's actually a duplex, and that was in use until 1888. This is another CDS, but it's not a duplex. This was in use until 1889, when a smudge killer was added. Here's the same CDS a month later. That pinwheel cancel is not from Litus. That's from Salem, North Carolina. You find this by looking lots of books. Here we have another duplex. This includes the time, and it was in use until 1911. It's trimmed at the left. I have some RFD cancels. I have them with number 1 and number 3 in the bars. Here's another duplex. This was in use till 1931. Here's a Litus PA, 1920s, Litus PA parcel cancel used as a killer on this wrapper. And I, for the life of me, cannot identify the Scott number of that wrapper. If anybody else can, I'd be willing to listen. I've been through that book and I cannot find it. Here we have the Bureau pre-cancel on a pair of Nathan Hale half centers. Interestingly enough, this thing is on a meeting notice for the Lancaster Stamp Club. And then machine cancels followed in about 1928. I'll go into some advertising covers here. Agriculture was really important in Lancaster County, and we can see some of that here. This is advertisement for some poultry, and there's another one, Litus Springs Poultry Company. I have, let's see. Yeah, in keeping with the agricultural theme, Lancaster County, as most of you know, is big in cigar leaf tobacco. It seems like every Amish farm has a portion of land set aside for cigar leaf tobacco. According to the Litus Bicentennial book, which I say is in the second slide on this thing, aside from its pretzel making renown, Litus was noted during the late 1800s as the center of the cigar making and tobacco industry. A considerable portion of our citizens were employed in the many cigar factories and tobacco warehouses. So we have Litus Bricker cigars. They don't exist anymore. Here we have the Litus Metropolitan cigars. Metropolitan cigars exist today, but I'm not sure if it's the same company. The above mentioned Litus Bicentennial book pointed out the prominence of pretzel making in Litus. Here in the heart of Pennsylvania Dutch country, pretzels are big, literally sometimes. Some even use the German word bretzels. Following this is a cover from the Hubner Pretzel Company. The company no longer exists. At Litus today, you can visit the Sturgis Pretzel Company and make your own pretzel as part of the tour. The Julius Sturgis Pretzel Bakery was founded in 1861 as the first commercial pretzel bakery in America. The next cover was used in 1956 during the Litus Bicentennial celebration. Note that it says the Pretzel Town. The next two covers I'll call Small Town Big Roots. The first is a cover from the Ideal Cocoa and Chocolate Company. This started in 1899 as the Kendig Manufacturing Company. Today we know it as the Wilbur Sukard Company. Who doesn't know Wilbur buds? Eat your heart out. Eat your heart out, Hershey Kisses. And then last is a cover from the Animal Trap Company of America. This started life as the J.M. Mast Manufacturing Company. Not sure what year. Later it would become Woodstream Corporation. I worked there in 1992 and 93. The largest product line was the Havahart animal traps. Their best known product, one we've all handled, I'm sure, is the Victor mouse trap. You know, the wooden base spring-loaded device that you baited with a piece of cheese. We made them by the zillions. The machine that produces those traps was proprietary and no outsider was allowed to see that machine. That's the end.
Thank you, sir. Fantastic. Thank you. Questions, applause. You want to keep sharing or take it down and we could ask questions, whatever works for you, sir. Fantastic. Thank you.
We can take it down. How do I take it down? Stop share? Yeah, that's easy enough.
Yeah, you could do that. And then if anybody has questions, they could ask, please. Questions for Dick, and a round of applause as well. I think everybody was doing that. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Dick. Nazareth is close to Bethlehem. In fact, every December, if the weather cooperates, there is a walk from Nazareth to Bethlehem to commemorate the journey of Mary and Joseph to Bethlehem. And when people get to Bethlehem, they have a soup meal. So it's within walking distance. It's a nice jaunt.
Nice.
Well, I figured they weren't too far away, but I just
no, right. And it is a Moravian community as well. They have Moravian roots.
Right. I to follow up, I looked it up while Kathy and I both, we both have lived in the area, and the walk is 10 miles, and the last one was held on the 11th of December, about a month ago, and it was the 62nd annual march, and it is to commemorate, as Kathy said, the Mary and Joseph and Nazareth to Bethlehem. However, it's now also a peace march as well.
Nice. Good, thank you.
Dick?
Dick?
I noticed on the earlier different cancels, this I don't know that much about postal history, but they didn't put the year in. You often have to tell by the stamp or if there's a letter inside or anything. Any reason why they didn't put the year on or write it in or anything, I
have no idea. I mean, it's pretty universal around the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would think it makes sense to put it on.
Yeah, the good thing about the stampless covers, the folded letters, is that generally the letter is the inside, and so you can get it. The ones the problem, for instance, the one my 1847, the number 1, I've had to guess at the date based on other factors. Just don't know, because there was a letter inside and the letter is not there. So there's a lot to be said for keeping the contents. That was a real problem back, I don't know, several years ago, must be 10, 15 years now. The Pennsylvania State Museum sold their archives of correspondence. They sold the covers and kept the letters. They separated them. So most people that were buying the covers, or it's one way or the other, one they kept and one didn't. I don't remember which one now, but they separated them, which was just stupid. But what can I tell you?
I think Tom Ballman. Tom, you had a question, Tom? Please, and then Bob. Go ahead.
I have.
Dick. My daughter taught at Linden Hall from 2004 to 2008, and she resided there too. Second thing is the post office that was torn down for the elementary school. The inside of that is with Bob, who passed away, and Barbara Brown. They have the post office in their basement. Now, I don't know if Barbara's still lives down Spring City, but she's still the president of the Pottstown Stamp Club.
To the best of my knowledge, she still has that post office front.
Yes, she does. I've seen it personally.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she does.
It's really it's not in the basement. It's actually in the main family room, kind of in different areas. Wonderful timepiece.
Yeah. The problem that I have, and I didn't dwell on it at the beginning there, the post office was open in 1806. My earliest piece is 1822. Where's all the mail in those 16 years? I had hoped. I've been once to the Litus Historical Society on Main Street, and I could not at all get them interested in looking in the archives to see what they say. Only that, yeah, we got a lot of letters. I would love to get in there and see if there's anything that predates mine, and just for posterity. And the other thing relative to the post office, shortly after I started collecting the Lititz postal history, I went to the post office one day to talk to the postmaster. I kind of got to know the guy because the postal carrier kept screwing up when I was shipping my exhibit to various exhibits. He used to just leave it at the front door. On the outside, it was insured. He thought he was doing me a favor because I'd have to go to the post office. So anyhow, I got to know the post office postmaster, and I asked him one day, I said, "Do you have any of the old canceling devices or any of the old historical stuff?" No, basically when they built that post office, and some years before that, they just kind of cleaned it out and they threw everything away.
Not good, sir. Not good. You needed to
Not
be
good.
there, right? Yeah, you needed
Not
to be
good.
there with a shopping cart.
Never throw anything away.
Never. Bob, you had a question though, Mr. Noble, please.
I don't have a question. I have a share screen. I have a nice Lititz cover. April
Double
3rd.
strike.
Double strike, yes, to Rossville, Lancaster County. And the most fascinating thing, Charlie, is the reverse.
Oh, show me the back. Let's see it.
There's the back.
I didn't see the back.
You don't see the back?
Nope.
No, we only see the front.
Okay, all right. I'll have to do it the other way then.
I see, is that I see in manuscript, in haste. I think I see that, and he wrote that on the front, or she wrote that on the front. In haste, Susie. Yeah, in haste, Susie. I see Dick and I are both getting real close, so you can see our foreheads because we want to look at that cover.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And what's
Sure.
on the back? Let's see, sir.
Up share, okay.
What is it advertised? Is there a corner card or embossing? There's got to be something on the reverse, right?
There's something there of interest, yes.
All right.
Hang on, hang
We're
on.
waiting with bated
Give
breath.
me a
We're
second.
waiting with bated breath. That's
Take
right.
your
Gotta
time.
be
There is no
Charlie.
rush.
Share screen.
Because after the Q&A, look at you. You have a nice Notion label. You've got a nice wafer seal. Look at that. Beautiful.
After your discussion, I did
Yes.
not know I had this until I just found the cover as going through my Lititz covers, and then I discovered this on the back.
Very nice. Yes. And can you read that for us? Do you know what it says?
I can read it for you
Yeah, when you can.
if I hold it up.
And then Dick will be talking to you later to go barter for that one. I think that's on his list, right?
Home is not home without thee.
There you go. There you go. I know that phrase. It's probably on one of my little mini sheets that I shared. So that's great.
Robert?
Thank you. Thank you.
I
Robert,
thought you would appreciate that.
Thank you for sharing.
put
That's
the
fantastic.
front of that back up.
I thought I could just flip them. It doesn't work that way, evidently.
I like the double strike of the CDS, Dick, right? That's really cool how he hit it twice. It must have not been clear, so he struck it twice.
Jim here in Southwick, going back to that missing wrapper, was that the 1 cent round, Franklin? green.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that is
Actually, it's not Franklin.
W425.
It's not Franklin, it's Washington.
Is that a Washington?
It
Really?
is Washington. That's the puzzler.
And now I'm going back to that one. That's weird. Let's go back. I
So I
pulled it up
just-
here too.
You want
I
me to?
just noticed that the addressee is Lauber.
No, that's a Franklin, Dick. That's a 1 cent Franklin. That's Ben Franklin's portrait.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I thought. Yeah,
Yep.
let me go back.
Yeah, it's Franklin.
yeah, should have been W425 or U92.
And I know Samil is on too, and he knows his rappers, I think, a number of us. So I believe that, yeah, there it was. Yeah,
Yep.
that's Franklin. That's Franklin.
Yeah, it's listed.
Oh, that's a piece of cardboard. I keep that there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, W425. Scott.
Just help me mail it down.
Dave, Dave, could
It's
you
a
unmute your line?
rapper.
Thank
So
you,
what's
sir.
it's a rapper. So what's the W number?
The W is W
Rapper.
425.
Say that again, please.
W425 versus U425.
I'll have to trust you on that.
Yeah, so Dick, double check your Scots. There were 2 wrappers with that indicia on it, and there's W425, which is green on manila, unglazed. And then there's W427 green on brown, which is glazed, but it's definitely one of the wrappers. It's 425 or 427. So take a peek at that.
Yeah, I'm pulling out my catalog as we talk.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions though for Dick as well? Because I want to make sure everybody, if you've got a question, he could answer for you while we got him. And then I'm going to share a cover that when I saw his, yeah, go ahead, Paul. When I saw his presentation, it made me pull out one of my covers. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, question I have is on the typing of manuscript cancels. Is that just based on each person who cancels is a different type? That's kind of what I gleaned.
It's the typing that we developed in the book.
Right. And yeah, you guys developed that. Okay.
But it's
Yeah.
just numerical order. The first one was type 1, the second was type 2, third was type
Okay,
3.
good.
And the
And then that-
manuscripts are the same way. There's M1, the first manuscript. Well, there's only one that they call, but there are 2 different styles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very interesting, Dick, and you pointed this out, and not a lot of other towns, hamlets, little cities did this, is you started with the CDS. And then during the period when CDSs really took off, you went back to manuscript there after 1830 at the local post office when Zitzman took over. That to me is very odd that you would lose the original circular date stamp. You would not make a new circular date stamp when clearly Christian Hall was using that from, probably the earliest days. So any attribution to that? I mean, what's your thought there on why they would go away from a CDS to manuscript for so many years before, going back to a CDS and in the late 1840s? It's just really odd. And most,
Just have no clue.
yeah, it's a very odd, right? Most other cities are just not like that. Towns are not like that. So.
Yeah, and it was several years.
Yes, right. A lot of years. So,
So it's
yeah,
just
very good.
it's strange,
It
but
is strange.
interesting. But I think that there's got to be something. There's got to be something between 1806 and 1822.
Yeah, absolutely. That has to be. And you're right. I think the society's got to kind of get you access there. If they've got.
Yeah, I gotta take another run at them.
Yeah, agreed.
They were having some celebration when I was up there, and it was some years ago. It had to be 10 years ago. And I stopped in and I offered to make a display of my exhibit.
Sure.
I offered to bring in the frames and set the thing up for a period of time. And
They weren't interested.
They weren't interested, and
Wow.
what they were more afraid of was the liability.
Oh.
I said, hey, you got locks on the door?
Sure. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
fine. I'll accept. I have insurance, but
It also is really amazing too, as I look at the 1849 covers, when you went to that unique large black Lititz CDS with PA integral, is the 5 hand stamps are so crude. They went to the expense of making a really nice circular date stamp. And the fives, each of those hand stamped fives are different. They're crude. They probably didn't last long, and they probably wore out. They're just all 4 or 5 of them are different. None of them are the same, Dick. I know you saw that. So just really odd how they weren't.
Some of the fives get so crude that they look like 2s.
Yeah, well, that's right. The one of them looks like an inverted 2 that's on the July 26th. It just does not look like a 5, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yep.
Dick, comment, a couple questions. You might talk to Vern Martin, our club's community organizer. He has a way of getting into places. He got us into 3 post offices way back to do to post things and things like that. So check with him. He's just very good. But the Jacobson covers, there was 2 of them to different addresses, and he was a reverend. Could he have maybe been like a circuit rider, or he served at a couple different schools? Because I remember, I worked 2 clinics. I would get mail at each, and maybe he, worked the 2 different facilities and would get mail at each. That might be it.
I don't know that. I mean, it's possible, but I strongly suspect it's more a case of, they probably almost use the town names interchangeably.
Yeah. And what is Prussian closed mail?
That was part of literally it was a closed mail, and mail was put in there in a bag.
Okay.
And it was closed through its entire journey, and it opened up. In this case, I think they opened it up in Belgium to see where it went from there. But then it was put on a train or a stagecoach or whatever to feed to whatever town it was going to in Prussia.
I know when you mentioned the 4 different postages, to England, to whatever. I can see why the Postal Union was very well received.
Yeah, everybody got their little piece of it, and it's just kind of amazing. I heard a presentation a week ago at the Collectors Club on mail into Cuba pre-UPU, and it was just really fascinating. And what was amazing was that again, this was pre-UPU, and there were very few established rates. Everybody determined their own, and then some of them had money that you paid to the ship's captain, and some of these things were carried totally outside of the mails between 2 points on a ship. There was one that was kind of interesting. It went from Buenos Aires to Havana, and it went via England. Talk about Christopher.
Well, that was Columbus. Really quick mail, rapid mail, huh? To really go point to point.
Yeah, that piece went from Buenos Aires all the way to England, and then back to Cuba.
Yeah,
it's just really amazing, and it took like forever.
Took forever though, absolutely, sure.
Like our mail here, I mail across the street. It goes from my house to Harrisburg, and it goes across the street. What's changed?
Exactly right. Hey, can I share? I want to make Dick. I wanted to share that cover that marries to one of your covers, if I could, real quick.
Yeah,
I can do that. Yeah, just I want to show that, because once I saw your first cover and your earliest known, it made me think of something that I published last year, which was another earliest known. And can you see my slides? You can see it, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here is, and I published this, I guess, last September in the Empire State Postal History Journal. And it would happen to be mail from the Caribbean that carries an earliest known use. And so what is it? Let me see if I could advance. Here it is. So I published this last year in the Excelsior in September. It's a cover carried by a ship. We could talk about ship letters. You mentioned ship letters from 1834. So this is a few years later than your earliest from Litus. But if you look there at the upper right, and this is a folded letter and it's opened up, you'll see it is April 1st, and it's an earliest known of that particular CDS, but you could see the addressee. It is Reverend F. Seidel, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And so it is going to the same Reverend. It was a ship letter that came, and I'll go to the next slide. Here it is. It blows it up. It's a ship letter dated 1834, folded letter. It's addressed to the Reverend, same Reverend that Dick was just talking about. It was transported by the schooner, the James Hooper, from the dates. And when it arrived in New York City Harbor, we're able to determine that. It went from St. Bartholomew. So St. Bart's in the Caribbean entered the mails in March, and it arrived in New York City Harbor on April 1st. That is the earliest known use of that particular circular date stamp in New York City, the use of APL for April instead of the traditional APR, which is how 99% of the world abbreviates April. But there was one clerk in New York City that said, I'm going to do it my own way, started using an APL. That lasted from 1834 to 1855. Same clerk used that APL, and it's not common, but it's out there. And you could see ship because it came in on a ship. But this is a little 19th century photo letter, same guy, penned. It's about 14.5 by 12 inches, fully opened. It was written by a young woman, Isabella Naylor, at St. Bart's in the Caribbean, and went to the Reverend. She's responding to some previous correspondence, which she offers thanks for an esteemed favor, as she puts it, which may include support of a darling child in a strange company. And then she also goes into details because there's the letter, intentions of a trip to the States. It started its journey to the U.S. the same day it was written, like I said, on the James Hooper, and it arrived a few weeks later. And I was able to find that in the New York Commercial Advertiser. Every ship coming into New York City Harbor by the captain that carried this, because this was a ship letter, was put in a docket book. And the ship captain, as soon as he pulled up to the port, had to take any mail that he carried directly to the post office as his first action. He got paid 2 cents, and the rest of it, the 12.5 cents, because they paid 14.5 cents, was the inland rate to get the letter to them, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And so here's part of the contents, and it's a 2.5 page letter where she's writing all of this, to the Reverend. And this is what I alluded to earlier. He's a Reverend at the Moravian Seminary for young ladies in Bethlehem. It's got a great note in here. There's a lot more stuff that is spoken about. It is docketed, so we know that he received it, and that he wrote on the back, Naylor, April 4th, 1834, and the 16th, he responded back, which is why he has that date. And it's on really pretty watermarked paper from that time, Webster 1828 paper. So just, I thought it was interesting when I saw, Dick, you shared what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I saw the first slide that we've got another letter a few years later. So the Reverend was clearly there for a number of years at the Moravian location. So I just wanted to share that with you.
That's great. And that letter was in English, and the one that I sent to you was in German.
Yes, absolutely. This letter is in English. I could absolutely read it. I transcribed it, and it was, I could not the one you sent me. I just saw your email. So thank you. I'll stop sharing. The one you sent to me that I now see was totally in German. That might take a little effort, though, Dick, to translate that one. But this one, I just thought, again, it was just serendipity, again, that you happen to be talking about the same Reverend, and I happen to have a couple of them coming in from ship letters coming in from the islands, the Caribbean islands.
That's the serendipity that I talked about. I just like some of the things that I got, finding that Frederick Zitzman letter that absolutely verifies that manuscript.
Yes.
Or the fact that, I had always guessed on the Weisberg postmaster thing that, this was probably a student that was writing to her dad, and they had the collusion of the Lititz postmaster.
Absolutely.
Could send it free, so she didn't cost her anything to send a letter home. But to find the letter from mom to the daughter from Weisberg to Linden Hall seals it.
That seals the deal. That's phenomenal. And I like your thought about probably, the postmistress or his wife kind of maybe, helping out and putting the other manuscript on there. That kind of makes sense too, right? I mean,
and for the period of use, there it was. I wrote it down here someplace, and I didn't tell you what it was. It was in use from July 2nd, 35 to February 3rd, 49.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. 14 years. 14 years. Yeah.
14 years. That's right. So, that's it's got to be his wife.
It has to be. It's not like he hired. There wasn't that much mail.
Somebody, that was there.
Right. There wasn't that much mail that he would have to hire a clerk to do the signing. Right. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And so I just think that, and there is some overlap in the dates.
Okay,
Let's see. What
makes
was the
sense.
overlap?
Dick, just
yes.
I really appreciate your presentation, really enjoyed it. A couple of things maybe to consider is contacting the Moravian Society in Nazareth and in Bethlehem, because it appears there's been a lot of correspondence between Lititz and Bethlehem and Nazareth, and they may be able to give you access to some of their older correspondence. And I believe they're very good at keeping records. So that might be another source. And I wanted to check the Lititz Historical Society. Is that in the building right there with the Moravian Church and Linden Hall buildings?
No, it's across the street.
Okay. About 15 years ago, a Swiss friend of mine was writing a book on Colonel Sutter, and he wanted to visit the grave, and we went and contacted the Historical Society there at the Moravian community, which is right there in the complex. And they have a museum upstairs, and they were just absolutely fantastic. They opened up and showed him things that weren't even on display. They had General Sutter's gun and other things that belonged to him, which I think were passed on to them after he died, because he is buried in the cemetery there.
Yes.
And one possible other source is to actually go into the historical facility there in the Moravian community. They were just a delight to work with. I think we've planned it to be like a 15 to 20-minute visit to just go visit the grave. We ended up spending a couple of hours there, and my friend was able to take photographs of things that he didn't even know about and include in his book. So just a couple more suggestions.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thank you very much. I had not thought about the Moravian angle. I had only been dealing with the Lititz the Historical Society, but that's a good suggestion. Thanks very much. I'll follow that up.
Hey, Dick, I'm curious about this Prussian closed mail, because the letters actually went to Württemberg, which is a separate German state. They have separate stamps to Prussia. So I'm curious, and I have to maybe do some research myself, what Prussia had control over in the philatelic mail.
I truly don't know. Like I say, I got those things. I didn't know what to do with them. I sent copies of those to Dick Winter, and he wrote the Transatlantic Mail book. I've got both volumes of it. But it is a subject way too complex that I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing that. And he just basically rolled it off of his tongue. In fact, one of the covers has a Franco, Franco, in red hand stamp. And he was able to determine that my letter and one that he's got were in the same bag.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, Mike,
and so, I don't know very much at all about the Prussian closed mail. I recognize the name. I know that it was very prominent, but beyond that, I don't know.
Mike, the mail in Central Europe was run by a private company until Prussia took it over, forced them to sell the service to Prussia, and they served the rest of most of Germany from there. And Prussia, of course, took over much of what's now Germany.
Yeah.
Primus inter pares, of course.
Okay, that explains it.
Paul, a little serendipity. Would you show my PowerPoint?
Yeah. Are we done with questions for Dick?
Great presentation.
Thank you, sir. Can we have a round of applause again for Dick?
Thank you very much.
Phenomenal presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.